Hello, my name is Rosa. I'm an interpreter. This month marks my first anniversary interpreting in immigration court, so I've decided to make a series of videos related to immigration court. Immigration courts fall under the Executive Office for Immigration Review, which is part of the Department of Justice. They have been outsourcing interpretation services through private companies that have to bid for this federal contract, and they subcontract interpreters. At the moment, the federal contractor that handles interpretation services for the EOIR is SOS International, or as I call it, SOSI. In early June of 2019, I received a message via LinkedIn from one of the recruiters. The first step was supposed to be an initial phone interview, but she would end up not calling me, and since I was already excited about this, I decided to look for a job listing, and I applied to start over again with a different recruiter. After I did, I received an email from a second recruiter the very next day. The approach of this recruiter was very different. He seemed more organized and immediately gave me multiple dates and times to schedule my phone interview. But before I got to reply back, the original recruiter finally called me out of the blue, and the interview was a brief call. We went over the details of the recruiting process. She gave me details of the rates they offered for my language pair and told me the next step was to take a screening test to assess my language proficiency. A coordinator was supposed to email me to schedule the test, but 2 weeks went by and I never heard from the recruiter or the coordinator. In mid-June, I received another message from a third recruiter, this time through pros.com. I was going to have to start the whole process again, but I felt this time it would be different. The recruiter scheduled my phone interview for the very next day, and when we spoke, she was very thorough in her questions and focused a lot more on my resume. She made me update my resume to include any and all experience I had interpreting in legal settings. My experience in that field was practically non-existent at that point, but I had been volunteering at an immigration law clinic for a local university, and that was really helpful to boost my chances of getting a contract. Within 5 days, I received an email from our quality coordinator with instructions to schedule my test, and I scheduled the appointment for a week later to have time to prepare. If you are going through this and have no luck with your recruiter, try to find a different one. It's a very short test that takes about 30 minutes, and it's done remotely, so you need a computer with high-speed internet, a webcam because there will be a proctor watching you, and a headset. You need a score of 3.5 to pass the test. You have 3 simultaneous sections, 2 with general vocabulary and 1 with medium legal vocabulary, but nothing is too complicated in terms of terminology. Each section lasts 3 minutes, and the speed is between 120 to 135 words per minute. The consecutive section comes next, and it lasts 7 minutes. There are 10 utterances, so 5 in English, 5 in the foreign language, and the segments are not long at all. The number of words is between 1 to 25, so they're very manageable. My advice is to practice simultaneous interpretation as much as you can at various speeds. Start with something you are very familiar with and then move on to other subjects, ideally something legal-ish. The main thing is to learn how to recover if you miss a term and to learn how to keep up with the speed. I remember I practiced a lot watching Law and Order SVU, although that is not something I would recommend for everybody. It's just what I could come up with at the time. One of the main reasons why I decided to pursue this opportunity was because of the training they offered. The same day they told me I passed the screening test, I received an email from the quality coordinator asking me about my availability to start the training because there was a time limit of 15 days. The training was with the Southern California School of Interpretation, and after completing the training, I would have 7 days to take a final exam. For the training, you get your credentials and access to a website. You get a handbook with glossaries and scripts in PDF format, which I strongly suggest you print. And there are 6 lectures where the instructor, Nestor Wagner, explains the type of hearings you will be interpreting, how to localize the interpretation of some terms based on the respondent's country of origin, and of course, interpreting techniques for simultaneous and consecutive interpretation and sight translation. It is self-paced and all lectures are recorded. After you watch each lecture, you have to practice simultaneous interpretation at different speeds from 120 to 160 words per minute, and there's also a consecutive scenario. I felt I needed more than 2 weeks to fully master the content of the course, but it is what it is. I did my best with the time I had and I scheduled my final exam. I was going crazy wondering if there was something else I should be studying, but to pass the exam, you must master the material covered during the training. That's it. Focus on that. The final exam is longer than the first one, obviously, but I felt better prepared for that test since I had gone through the training. I passed the test and I don't remember the score, and I deleted my emails with the details, but they immediately sent me a contract and instructions for the next steps because, yes, we were not done yet. I still had to pass another test where they would grade me based on my interpretation of an individual merits hearing in court. Just FYI, everything is recorded in immigration court, so your actual final exam is based on the recording of your interpretation in real life. A different coordinator contacted me to go through an orientation. Part of it was online, going through a few modules to review protocol, immigration court operations, how to work with the audio equipment, the billing process, and so forth. Then I was booked for an on-site orientation with a senior interpreter at my local immigration court. This interpreter showed me how to access the building, how to sign in and out, how to use the audio equipment, and she gave me great tips about how to work with the immigration judges. Then I spent about a month or so trying to go to as many hearings as I could to observe. I went to observe hearings even if the interpreter was not working with my language pair. It was very helpful because I became familiar with the speech pattern of each judge and how they conduct their hearings. And fortunately for me, we only have 2 judges in this immigration court. I think I observed about 6 different hearings before I felt ready to do it on my own. My first hearing was scheduled for September 11. I was very nervous and I had practiced a lot beforehand, only to get there to find out that the case had been rescheduled. I was booked for another hearing. It started at 8:30 a.m. and it was very intense. The respondent had an attorney, so there was a lot of back and forth between the judge and the attorneys present. All that had to be interpreted simultaneously. The respondent provided testimony, which was lengthy and involved very difficult topics like child abuse and violence. Then the respondent's wife provided testimony, and it was very emotional, and there were tears and all that. And all that had to be interpreted in consecutive mode. After all that, the judge issued oral decisions, which are extremely complex to interpret after I had already been interpreting for about 4 hours. So you name it, it happened. The hearing ended at 1 p.m. And I must say that the training actually was extremely helpful, and I saw in real life basically the same things I had learned in the training. While I waited for the results, I wasn't allowed to go back to court. It took 2 weeks for me to receive an email confirming I had passed. A detailed report with my score would be sent a month later. The report was extremely thorough. They score you on things like accuracy, speed, stamina. I never knew that as an interpreter it was so important to have good stamina. Register, omissions, technique, protocol, and so forth. My final score was 82%, and after that I was officially in the roster and started interpreting in immigration court regularly. So if you want to grow as a professional interpreter in the legal field, I highly recommend going through this experience. I want you to know that if you have questions about this, if you're feeling nervous or lost like I did when I was going through this, you can contact me and I will be more than happy to connect with you, to put your mind at ease, to answer any questions you may have, or to help you in any way I can. Thank you so much for watching. Adios.